Welcome to Paranormal Connections with your host, Christina George, only on DTMWickedRadio.com.
Welcome, everybody, to Paranormal Connections. I am your host, Christina George, and we are here together for the next 2 hours to delve into different topics of the paranormal. And this week, I'm really excited, and people can probably tell by my post on social media today. But my guest tonight is a good friend of mine, Paul Wesley, and I've actually had him on the show before, I think kind of at the beginning of when I first started Paranormal Connections, and it was an amazing show that we had that day. I think that Paul put the episode up on his YouTube channel, and I think we had something like 10,000, hits on it, a lot of really good feedback, and he just full of so much information, and I just love talking to him. Kind of, this time it's a kind of a win-win for me, because not only is Paul going to be on the show tonight, but the week after next, he will be rejoining me for Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. We're going to be talking conspiracy, and we haven't talked about that for a long time, but, we've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of false flags out there. There's just so much stuff that it's time to have a show. So it's always great when I can have, friends and people that I know in the industry that, they like the paranormal and all of that, but they really investigate kind of and research all around, paranormal, cryptozoology, ufology, the whole 9 yards, and like I do. So that's exactly what I have with my guest tonight. So for the next 2 hours, we're going to be talking about reincarnation, past lives, deja vu, moon times, how it affects us, all kinds of things. So, this is the first time we've actually had this topic on, so I'm really actually excited. I know a lot of people had actually wanted to have me do a show on these topics, so just happened to work out perfectly. And if you have any questions tonight, and I'm sure we will have people that do, you can do it a couple ways. You can call in. The call-in number is area code 607-349-0410. And if you want to ask a question, you can join us in chat on the DTM site. And you can also post your questions on Facebook on either my personal page or the Paranormal Connections page underneath the show post for tonight. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and introduce my guest tonight, which is Paul Wesley. And actually, Paul Wesley goes by the name Truth Chaser on, I believe, YouTube and a few other places. He's an activist, a universalist, and a self-empowerment coach. And Paul's actually had experiences in the paranormal since the age of 6 and strives to bring the truth to as many people as possible. So, with no further ado, Paul, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for having me on the show again. Great.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on, not once, but, on the other show as well. I think that it's going to be absolutely amazing. I always enjoy, talking to you and having you on the show.
I'm more than happy to come on the show as many times as I possibly can, as long as we can reach more and more people. So thanks again for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, like when I first had you on, I think I was just, starting out. And I think I had like a couple thousand at the time, I think you had a much bigger following than I did at the time. And, here, just one of our shows the other week, I was close to 90,000. So, what a difference. And, definitely what time and when you're really trying to get the truth out to people, people are very responsive. And I noticed that they're very drawn to the shows. And I absolutely love that we can touch, and reach that many people out there. So, tonight I'm sure will be no different. And I'm super, super excited about talking about, these topics tonight. And it's interesting that when we were talking about, what will we talk about, that this is, one of the things that came up. And reincarnation, especially for so many people, because even though there's a lot of people now that are believing more in the paranormal, things like that, one of the biggest things that we're still finding is that people are really still afraid of death and, what happens after death. Do we reincarnate? What is the whole thing with past lives? All these different things, deja vu, how does it all fit in? And so it's very interesting that we're going to actually be talking about all these topics tonight with you. So I think it's a great show.
And absolutely. And I think that coming from an occultic background, well, not a Wiccan, if you want to call it that, background, I branched away from that. I was, in my teens, and jumped into activism, jumped into really wanting to do what I do as far as activism and universalism. And I think what's great about my journey and your journey is, like you said, it's all connected. I mean, when I really dabbled into everything I did, plus my own personal experiences, I realized, how important it is to mix the paranormal with current events. And that's what's great about actually being on next week and doing the conspiracy thing, because it really does mesh together. I mean, everything, we're all energy. We're all different vibrations, because we all obviously operate on different frequencies. And the blessing that it's been, I can speak for both of us, would be, is where you've come so far doing what you're doing, and now you're reaching so many people, and, doing what I'm doing, and how we've grown from it, being able to reach 1,000, 1,000 for us years ago was like, wow, this is great, So now we're reaching so many people, and really we're learning, we're learning from that. And I think that a lot of people say, oh my God, Paul, like you're an activist, you know what I mean? And now you're talking about reincarnation, and you're going from being an activist, and of course, obviously, my abduction experiences, which we talked about on the previous show, and how can you go from point A to point B? And I think that's from not quitting, really saying that this reality isn't just what we think is, really isn't what is. What is how far we're really ready to expand our consciousness, and have fun doing it. You know what I mean? I believe that through my journey, and obviously yours also, that you have to have fun. Because if you don't, you will go completely insane. But, again, it's great being on.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing. For many of us that, grew up, and this was kind of our life, and that was our reality, and we had to kind of live, two separate realities. One for the reality that we knew existed, and then, this one kind of a facade reality that we had to live with everybody else that didn't understand or believe in any of this. So we're finally getting to a point where, people are having their own experiences, which are so life-shaking that it's really starting to make them open their eyes up. And like you said, it is very, very much connected. And I think that so many people, they really don't see it because they stick with just one area of, the paranormal. Because, of course, growing up, the paranormal was all of the groups. The ufology, the cryptozoology, it wasn't separated as much as it is now. And as soon as, the TV shows started coming out, and paranormal was really deemed, quote unquote, like the spirits and ghosts and all that kind of stuff, then everybody, it just started kind of fracturing, into their own genres of, the field of expertise that they were going to research. And it was very interesting to me because since I had experiences in many different fields, it piqued my interest. And the more that I tried to find out answers for my own self, the more questions I had, the more answers I found, the more questions I had. So it kind of really pushed me forward in my research. But, oh, yeah, when you start really looking at it as a whole instead of just looking at UFOs, abductions, or just looking at cryptozoology, or just looking at the paranormal. Just looking at each one individually, you wouldn't really see any connection between anything. But when you start delving into researching a little bit of all of it, and you start seeing all the connections and the similarities of people reporting similar things but in different fields, you start to go, okay, this now is starting to make a little bit more sense of how this all can be connected. And like I said, I think for many of us who have really kind of got out there because of our own personal, trying to really find out answers for ourselves, kind of a personal journey, really has brought many of us to this point. So I think that it's great that there's so much information that we can, we find out over time of searching for our own answers, and then we're able to share it in a forum like this. So, what really started making you think about reincarnation in general?
And that's a great question, because through my activism and, I think that when you're abducted, and through my paranormal experiences, obviously, the Wiccan experiences that I've had, and having friends and different people that I've known who are high priestesses and had covens and all that, it made me question everything. Why, you really have to question things. We have to look at, and I actually turned around and I looked at it and I said to myself, well, when we look through history, people that had magical powers have been persecuted and burned, and people who thought outside of the box and decided to empower themselves to use natural herbs, to cure sicknesses and to do things that are positive, were persecuted. And, now I said, well, why was that? How does the, in order to understand how to change the future, and especially as an activist, we have to look back on the past and learn from the past in order to change the future. And I just started really digging deep. From seeing shadow people, I think we talked about that on the last show, from seeing shadow people through abductions, through all the paranormal, through the use of magic. Why has magic been restricted throughout the years? And I really just started saying to myself, why? Why is this suppressed? And then it brought me to the elitists, to the ones who are polluting our food or water or air. We'll get into that another show. And when I looked at these individuals, I call them the parasites, and now I'm going to get into that tonight, called Starving the Parasite. When I got into these individuals, I said, well, they have magic, okay? They're occultists. They know how, to manipulate reality. They know how to, use astral magic, I call it, which, believe it or not, I actually used when I was had an experience with what they call the shadow people. So, what really got me to that was just a little bit of personal experience and a lot of just soul searching. Because one of the questions that I had was, okay, well, I'm out here reaching thousands of people. I'm out here really selflessly trying to help people, but what shook me was when I had government agents show up at a protest. You know what I'm saying? So, because we had a chemtrail protest, and I'm like, well, let's hit the media, because obviously the media is the main reason why everyone's asleep, whether it be paranormal,
right,
aliens, food poisoning. I don't give a crap. They're the parasites, okay? So, and they're directly involved. So, and we'll get on that on the show, obviously. But and then when I seen the CIA agents that were there, and I have this on my YouTube channel, obviously, I said to myself, well, I want to know what death is. I want to know. I want to know about dreams. I want two major things with dreams and death. Because I was having a lot of dreams where a lot of interdimensional beings would come to me in dreams, and this may sound crazy to people, and they resonate with some. And this is one of the things I want to say. Don't believe a thing I say. I really, really want everyone after the show to say, I don't believe anything that the man is saying. This guy is saying whatever he wants. Okay? And empower yourself not only to do the research, but empower yourself once you find the truth, even if it's something that I may not have picked up on that you did, don't just sit there with it. Go out and empower others, because that's right now we're in a state that the planet is in a state of awareness right now where that's what we need. We don't need individuals that have knowledge. We need people like me and obviously the host that want to empower others. So,
right.
So I just said, hey, look, I want to know what's going on with death, and I got a weird email through Dream State, through experiences through Dream State. I got a weird email. It's like, dude, you don't ask anyone for anything. You're really putting your ass out on the line. You've been doing it for years. You've been really, grinding and getting it out there. Do you want to know the truth? And I responded, yes. And that's when I found out about the moon matrix. Okay, so it totally blew me off, because the email was like, we're going to come to you through Dream State, and this is going to sound whack. It's going to sound crazy to people who are asleep. But then again, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people thought the world was flat. Okay, so we have to really spoon feed people on what we know.
Well, the good thing with my show is that they're all here because they are awake, and so they
absolutely. Well, I mean, and you know what? I don't, and that's great. I love talking to people that are awake, but I really am so compassionate and passionate about talking to people who ain't awake. Like, I see these groups and people just want to post, chemtrail groups or Monsanto groups or this group. Like, no. Like, why don't we take our knowledge and go on the Fox News' Facebook page and post there, or go on WWE and post it there? You know what I mean? Like, this is what we need to do. So, I really love having a group of individuals. Like when I do lectures, I had 60 people at my last lecture, and none of them knew anything, and it was great, because that's what we do. And so finding out as far as reincarnation, I mean, it was just a thing of mine, because we're all going to die,
right.
and that was right. And if you dabble in the occult, whether good or bad, there's no such thing as death. You know that there's spirits, and there's energy, and that we're all energy. Whether we choose to be good or bad, that's our own as. But my main goal was to find out, okay, well, we're all energy, but where do we go when we pass? Because right now, people like us are public enemy number one.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, my goodness.
Right. So we are public enemy. Not only does the government watch us, okay? Okay. Not only do they watch us, but we have haters, and we talked about this in the first show. We have people who are so afraid to break free of their conditioning, of their mental conditioning, slavery, what I want to call it, that what they'll do is, there's 3 stages of waking up, okay? Number 1, you wake up. Number 2, you wake up and you're very angry because you see what's really going on. And, and number 3, you either wake up and you try to help people, or you wake up and you keep all the knowledge in yourself. And then that's why I say, no matter what I say, gain what you can, kind of like the Bible, take the bullshit from the truth, take the low vibration from the bullshit, and what resonates within you keep. What doesn't, throw away. So when I had got the email, okay, I looked into it. And I looked into the light at the end of the tunnel. I've looked into different religions. I looked into the Sumerian religion. I really dug deep into it. And David Icke speaks a lot about this when he says that, a lot of people laughed at him and said, well, he heard voices in his head. No, we are biological beings, okay, that have computers in we have computers in our brain. Literally, if you die, you're shocked, okay? Our consciousness is almost like a computer. And that may sound a little weird, but it's not. I mean, we have a supercomputer. We're how can I put this? We are soul beings, but we are biological. You know what I mean? If you bleed and all that stuff, you're biological. Okay? But we also have our brain. We interpret information and we perceive reality like a hologram through our thoughts, okay? Whatever we think, we holographically project what we think. So therefore, different dimensional beings can contact us through either dream state or people say, well, I hear a voice, or the inner voice said this, or the inner voice said that, because they maybe, if they're on a higher vibration, they can't physically manifest in front of us, but they can send us messages. And one of the answers to what I wanted to know was, listen, you live on a prison planet, okay? Okay, I mean, this is rough. This is real talk, okay? All right, this is, now, the only way off this prison planet is to raise your vibration. It doesn't mean not protest. It doesn't mean not get out there and talk about the paranormal. It means talk about what you want to talk about, but when you're out there with people and you're talking about things, press the fact of love vibration. Press the fact of hugging people, because, you know, we are conditioned as a species, and this is going to get into what we're saying about how I got into this and when we got, because we're just going to jump right into the reincarnation thing. I'm already on a roll, like I usually am on most shows. But okay, so basically, reincarnation, from my understanding, is that the light at the end of the tunnel is the moon. Okay, now the moon basically, I did a lecture on this. Is basically the moon is we are, when we pass away, we are recycled. We are confused, and the beings that are these low vibrational beings that are in control of this planet, okay, they basically take us to the moon, and when they take us to the moon, we see that light at the end of the tunnel, and our soul memory is stripped. Thus, we are sent back to Earth, recycled, reincarnated, okay? So, now, that is basically my theory of what's going on. Now, the reason for this is because we are food. Humanity is a food source. I don't mean like they physically eat us. I mean, I've heard rumors that they do. Maybe they do, or maybe they don't. But I've come to the understanding that it's an energy thing.
Right.
Okay, so this is why we have, oh my God, ISIS, you know, oh my God, World War III is coming, oh my God, you know, there's going to be there's going to be a huge disaster, and everyone gets scared. What we're working with right now on this existence, on this reality, is, you know, some people call it a school for the soul, some people call it a prison planet. I call it both. I think it's a school for the soul, and I also think it's a prison planet. The reason why I think that is because right now, on this planet, they run things. Okay, we have to earn our pardon. I've talked to people that were on their deathbeds. I've talked to people that had cancer. I've talked to people that had anything you can think of. Okay? I mean, I can literally, like I said on the last show, I can literally talk to someone for 5 minutes and know your whole life story. Well, maybe not 5. Give me a half an hour. Give me a half an hour and a cup of coffee, and I'll pretty much close to it. But, you know, and the thing is that what's going on is that one thing that they explained to me is, you know, why is the world so cold? Why is this? Where am I going to go when I die? You know, and it all comes down to that we're going to go where we want to go. Okay? Mm-hmm. The parasites, and I talk about starving the parasite. What that means is these negative beings who abduct people, you know, against their free will, who have the royal bloodlines, obviously, and this is throughout history. Sumerian tablets, the Egyptians talk about this. They talk about the serpent race. Now, I'm not saying all reptilians are evil. I'm just saying that the ones that are in control are assholes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, and I believe, well, I believe in love, and I refuse to believe that a few apples, you know, screw everything up for the rest. And through that belief, believe it or not, Christina, a lot of doors have been opened for me to get where I'm at right now. Because I think that a lot of people just want to say, well, reptile this, reptile that, and gray this, gray that. And I just want to state on the record that I can't condemn a species because of a few power-hungry parasites. And right now we live in an existence where we have two choices, where we could either A, feed the parasite and only preach negative and you know, only, you know, have a me self mentality, or we can say, hey, look, we live on a prison planet and these parasites stage certain events to keep us on a low vibration, so that way we are reincarnated on this earth, and thus we are food for the parasites. Like if we look at football stadiums, for example, baseball stadiums, hockey stadiums, we're human beings, okay? We all get different vibrations, whether we're making love or whether we're making war or whether we're watching. Parasite goes, well, you're a captain, so eventually you're going to die, and you will nourish me for a long, long time. Key word, nourish me. And I think that a lot of people, really need to realize that resistance is necessary, yes, but love is key. The moon was put where it's at for a reason, to keep us in this prison planet scenario. Okay. And if we look at the moon, okay, if we look at the moon, NASA bombed the moon. They bombed the frigging moon, and this can be Googled. NASA's own words, they heard a ping, okay, a vibrational ping, and me, myself, and others have said it's not. I don't think it's a planet. I think it's a hollow mechanical object. It could be a soul-snatching ship. It could be a you look at Star Wars, you look at the Death Star,
right?
And that resembles the moon. If you look at the moons that are around Jupiter or Mars or any other planets, think of the Death Star. Okay, it resembles that. And in my from my own research and from what I've got from other people, from other sources, the moon is there to basically, it's like a huge energetic satellite that recycles souls. And it's really hard for people to say, oh my God, like, dude, you're like this freedom fighting, patriot guy, and now you're talking this. But that's the beautiful thing about being the truth chaser, as I call myself. The truth. The good thing about being the truth chaser is when you think you found the truth, Christina, you realize you're just at the beginning. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yes. I so get it.
but go ahead.
No, I mean, what you're saying is exactly true. That's exactly what I was saying. It's like you think you've got so much of it, figured out, and as you get on these quests, that you realize how much you really know. I mean, it's like you're relearning all over. And what's interesting is that the more you find out, the more you realize how many lies we've been told over the years and how brainwashed and conditioned we have become to the point that people didn't question anything. But the thing is that when people start having their own personal experiences, it changes them, very dramatically. And once you can kind of, make them question one thing, it's like the domino effect. They start questioning everything, and then people start to wake up. And when you're talking about energy, it makes a lot of sense, because even when we find cases where people are having, paranormal activity, whether it be, a spirit having crossed over, or many of these things, when the clients are scared, you'll notice that the activity amps up. They become stronger.
Sure.
And so, of course, that's what they want. And usually when the family will go and seek out help, a lot of times you'll find that all of a sudden, right before it's time for them to get some help, all of a sudden, the activity either ceases until the team leaves and they don't believe anything's going on, or all hell breaks loose and scares the family to death, and then they're afraid, to kind of go forward because they're afraid of, what may happen. And so we always try to kind of dispel that fear as well and try to really educate people, because that's the thing is that that's a very human emotion, is fear. We fear what we do not understand.
Sure. And we're conditioned to do that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, from the time, as young as we can remember, and especially from the moment we, get into school. We are fearful of so many things throughout our life, and that's kind of how we have always been controlled, either by our, families, our parents, our governments, the whole nine yards, is to, make it so fear-based that, you will abide with whatever's going on. And the thing is that the way to kind of counter that is to educate people, because once people understand and are educated on what's going on,
sure,
it then dispels that fear. And people are like, okay, well, this makes more sense. So we don't need to be afraid of this, or, this thing may not have as much power. Because even like with just regular, hauntings that, are nothing dark, nothing bad, human spirits that haven't crossed over or stuck in the home, whatever it may be. And because of television shows that are now put out there, because first, we were told that none of this exists. But now, all of a sudden, the television shows are all about the UFOs and, all these things. Before, none of this stuff ever would have been allowed on TV.
Right,
and they, try to convince us that none of this stuff exists. But yet what people don't understand, too, like you said at the very beginning of this, is that the media is very involved in all of this and in the big scope of things, and they are told what to report on and what not to report on.
Absolutely.
Again, even though the people are waking up, they're also almost being reconditioned again. It's almost like
absolutely
a double jeopardy for people who understand this. And I see, of course, you and I think very much alike, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and then they are being reconditioned because they're realizing the old system isn't working. And if you look at the news reports, 2 Fox News reporters committed suicide recently.
Right.
Crazy shit.
Right. Absolutely.
Because they themselves, some of them, have been conditioned, and they're waking up from the Matrix, and they're like, oh my God, So, and that's what we're here for, And sometimes the truth isn't pretty, I'll take it off because we stuck with it, And I think that. And when people see negative in us, we continue. Regardless what they see in us, we continue to put one foot in front of the other, and we continue to press on, and we continue to create the reality that we want to manifest. And I think that's why I take my hat off to you, because what I mean by ugly is people are going to see, again, when they wake up, they're going to say they're going to resist the truth because it's scary. So, they're going to say, well, bash, he's ugly. Whatever he says is ugly, or the truth is ugly, And that's why I really love about you, because you stuck with it. And I think that it's a blessing to be back on the show again, because we both have grown a lot from in the last time. And that's fine, because that's what we need. We need. I love it. I love it.
I've had, absolutely. It's been kind of, again, a double-edged sword, getting into the public eye the way that, I did, because, of course, I was somebody who was a very private person and, had this secret of this girl who could see spirits, all these years and kind of, having to live a lie. And then all of a sudden, I'm investigating them in all these articles, and then I get the radio show, and it all of a sudden became so popular. And then being in the public eye, because when if nobody pays attention, or it's a small group of people that you are in your circles, then if something is said, it bothers you. But, it's usually like people who know you, and they're just, starting little rumors back and forth. But when you're in the public eye like we are, you get hit from so many, different angles, because I get people who believe in the paranormal but don't believe in psychics. And then I get people that, hear they're supposed to be investigators, and somebody will make up a rumor and, right away, without even investigating for themselves to see if it's even right, or if it doesn't even sound right. I mean, I've been accused of everything, of being a serial killer to being on the run. To,
I'm helping you all, but by the way, I'm a serial killer.
Hey, I'm telling you, and what's so crazy about it is it got so crazy at one point, people were saying, private messaging me saying, if you're on the run, you probably shouldn't be on social media, and I thought, and I would message back, if I was on the run, you're right, I definitely wouldn't be on social media. What does that tell you?
Well, you're a very beautiful woman, and that intimidates people, because people can't even, let alone find truth in themselves, can't even find beauty in themselves. So when they see an intelligent, a universal, beautiful person, it's very scary to them. It's very intimidating. It's intimidating to them. So
and some of it was very personal. It was people who I was associated with that when I wouldn't conform or fake things or do things that I didn't feel were right, then their biggest first thing, and it's weird because I've never been in the public eye like I am now, but I notice that any time somebody who I know, and it's usually like people who are like closer to you, as soon as they won't conform to what what they want me to do, then all of a sudden the first threat is they say, "Oh, I'll make something up and I'll ruin."
I'm gonna say, hey, exactly.
I know you, and they'll believe me. And I'm like, really? Like, okay, how many people are going to threaten me with this? And so for me, like, I'm not very vocal when it comes to this stuff on social media, because exactly what you're talking about, the dark side, like, they want to attack you.
They want to see you fail, baby girl. Listen, they want to see you friggin' fail.
That's right.
Nobody wants to see you shine. They're gritting their teeth right now. Listen, your family is saying right now, like, "Oh, who does she think she is?" Okay, this is a family program, so I'm not going to curse. I'm going to relax myself. But for you who don't know who I am, I get a little crazy, but I'm not going to do it tonight. But they're gritting their teeth and they're saying, "Oh, who does she think she is, Miss It?" Well, who do you think you are? You're sitting in your house smoking blunts, drinking 40s, okay, unsatisfied. Doing your thing, bitter because she's doing her thing. And I totally block these people out because I understand how the conscience works, and I want to share this with you, okay? If you don't already know. When you think these thoughts, like, okay, well, this guy's going to say, "Hey, look, I knew Paul when he was in strip clubs giving, oral sex to strippers, this, that, don't think that stuff. You are untouchable. Right. You are a force of delight, okay? I don't give a crap what because what anyone's going to say about me or you, they've done that or twice as much. But they're going to bring it up because they're not doing jack shit with their life, and you're creating the reality that you want to create. Hey, yes, I love house parties. I love my past. I'm a very passionate man, and I'm very passionate about humanity. And I consciously said, you can't touch me.
because I'm love. You understand? And I'm raw in your face. I'm raw in your face. I will kick your ass down your throat. Truth. And now this is a double-edged sword because and it really is because some radio shows are like, dude, he's buck wild. We don't want him on because they are they're not awake. They're scripted. Okay, just like mainstream media. You know what I'm saying? We can't have him on because he's too buck wild and he's too much for the truth, okay? And, we can't have him on because he goes, interviews people in the street and literally kicks in doors of people who are vaccinating children and killing children, and he wants to expose them and curse them out. I mean, this is the real deal, baby. This is how I am, okay? I'm going to bring it to you raw. But I'm also going to bring you love vibration. Like, and people say, like, I am... I don't know. Like, this is what I do. I think we do what we do is because that's what needs to be done. This is what separates us from the bullshit artists, okay? Because we're real. We are reality. We've had our party times. We've had our past. This is no strange things to people who know us. Of course, we're human beings. We have our mistakes and we have our way of life, okay? But at the same token, we chose to not be zombies. We chose to dig in our consciousness and not only gain knowledge but empower others. So for the people out there who want to talk trash on either one of us or anyone else, the people who talk trash are just bitter because they live with their unsatisfied husband who has a small penis, or they live with their wife who's very ugly or very beautiful who cheats on them, and they're just not satisfied with themselves. Yeah, I'm coming out and I'm saying it because it has to be said. What the problem is with people who are negative, they're negative because of a couple things. They're negative because they haven't really found themselves, their true vibration, and number two, they found the truth. And they're very bitter at people like you who have found the truth and are just like them, very compassionate, very emotional, very outgoing, but they haven't broke away from that negativeness to be on the level that we're on. And I said what I said because it needs to be said. What I'm saying tonight on the show is what needs to be said because that's what's reaching people in the ghettos, okay? That's what's reaching the people in the suburbs that are like, wow, I have nothing to do with skateboard all day. But here's some real truth. Here's some raw truth. Okay? I don't candy coat nothing. I don't wear a ceilings high. I don't do none of that. I don't want to give anything other than the truth. And that is what we do. And that's what pisses people off. That's actually pisses people off on radio shows who candy coat things and want to monitor things. Because A, they're either working for the government or they're agents, or B, they're just better too. But in the end, listen, in the end, I'm going to let you go on this, but I'm going to let you ride on this. But in the end, who's going to want to waken up more people? Us or them? Us. Because the people that need to be waking up are the people that have disabled children, okay? The people that have been abducted, the people that have paranormal experiences that need help, the people that don't want to hear the BS, come and join my group and only talk about certain things I want to talk about. No. You're going to go on Christina's show. You're going to go on Truth Taster's show. You know why? Because we're real. Because we're raw. Because we don't candy coat shit. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that,
it's real.
You notice with me, I don't respond on social media because at the very beginning, I wanted to, people would say, well, if this wasn't true, what's her response? And then if you respond, some people will say, well, why would you respond if it's not true? Why would you even waste your time? And, then other people, if you don't, then they say, well, they're not saying anything that must be true. You can never make everybody happy. And so I learned very, very quickly that you got to get a thick skin, but what's very interesting is that I did not really address any of this. I just kept staying focused, staying positive, block all this stuff out, continue to
block it out, create your own reality. Because I noticed a lot of things on your Facebook. I noticed. And one of the things I noticed
more than anything,
huh?
When you don't respond, when you don't feed that negativity, because the thing is,
don't feed into them. They will evaporate like water. Because one of the things I noticed about you, you are very emotional, very kind-hearted person. You are. And it seems like sometimes when you're on Facebook, you're always defending yourself. And I just want to, like, reach out and give you a Facebook hug and say, listen, screw them. You know what I mean? Like, they will evaporate like water. Cut them off. It'll drive them crazy. Because
Absolutely.
it will, you know? And this is, and the ones who don't evaporate are a part of the agenda. But to get back into the moon matrix, when when we look at deja vu, how many of you listeners have had deja vu? Don't lie.
Oh, absolutely. We know a lot.
Don't lie. Come
So
on.
many.
You know, you've had that job, and you know you're at the office, and as soon as you start punching in keys, you just what I would explain is you feel that whoosh, that whoosh that goes through your body, and you're like, oh my God, I've been here before. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
that goes. Have you ever had that?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I've had it many times.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, go ahead and share your experiences.
Well, the thing is that, you know, throughout life, I've had many, many times where literally I'll stop in my tracks because I know that I have done what sequence that I just went through, I've done in the past, you know,
Right.
done before.
Right.
See, I'm also very much into, you know, or actually probably over the last maybe 10 years, I really got interested in, like, past lives. And reason being was that after my near-death experience, when I came back, I was getting a lot of bits and pieces of information that was coming back to me.
Did that come in dream state, or did that come in just the visions?
Both.
Okay.
Both. And it was very interesting because my abilities were 10 times stronger than they were prior to that. I was having now visions, precog dreams.
Yeah.
I could predict things very clearly, and not only was I seeing, you know, just the regular human spirits that I had seen since childhood, but
Sure.
I was now also seeing many other different types of entities.
Have you ever seen the shadow people?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
What I want to know, before because this is great, because this is what time it is. All right, so we got another hour left. Great, so we can get into all this. My experience with the shadow people was, I wouldn't say totally negative, but 50-50. What do you think about, what are your experiences with these beings? Are they negative? Are they confused? What?
Well, I have a couple different theories because...
Now, say how you feel, not what other people want to hear, honestly.
Right, absolutely. And, well, that's just how I am anyway. I mean,
I know. I mean, I'm just saying.
Everybody's opinions are different on what they are. But
Right.
I will tell you, just from experience interacting, different things like that, I'm finding that some people whose abilities are starting to activate or with children, they are seeing shadow people, which I do not feel are actual shadow people. I think that it's actually spirits manifesting, and that they're only seeing the silhouettes or
they're seeing the shadow of them.
Correct.
Right.
But I know that I have encountered shadow people that are definitely not
friendly. Not friendly.
No, and I can sense the difference between them immediately.
Absolutely right.
So,
and that, that's a blessing, because that goes with what I said earlier, that there's the good and there's the bad. And I think that when we have people who say, well, negative, and I want, this is one of the reasons why I did not delete certain YouTube videos, because in the very beginning, again, this makes me not perfect. Like, I'm not made of platinum, okay? Neither are you, but we're all not. And when I first started my career doing what we do, I was negative on a lot of things. And I keep that on YouTube because I want to show the viewers that there's stages of awakening. There's stages of awareness that we have, When you first wake up, I was very angry, Christina.
mm-hmm.
I was oh my God. Whew. When I found out about, like, the Earth's history and my own abductions and the paranormal, oh my God! I mean, I was very upset because but that upsetness turned into, I want to understand the enemy. I want to understand reptilians, where they breathe, how their honor code, and I found a lot of shit, like how they rub. A lot of politicians, what they do is they rub their hands, their palms on the face. That's kind of what's the word? I hate when I stutter. It's kind of like it's like right on my tongue, but I can't get it. Anyways, so they rub their palms. It's kind of like a high for them. It's like orgasmic thing for them. This is why a lot of people when they, especially the Japanese, they bow and they look at each other in the eyes, but they always keep their hands together. I forget the actual saying that goes along with that, but it's a universal saying. So when I first started out, very angry, and then the anger turned into investigation. You want to investigate. You want to know. I want to know what everyone calls the boogeyman. Okay, and coming from the childhood that I had, I don't think anything else could have been the boogeyman. But and when I found out what I found out, I found out a lot of good things, and then I also found out some bad things. I think that it comes down to choosing. What do you want? Do you want to choose love, or do you want to choose dark?
Right.
Do we want to harp on the love, or do we want to harp on the dark? And next week we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot of what's going on, because there's a lot going on in conspiracy worlds, and that's my well, I don't think I have an expertise, but because one of the things when I first started out, I looked at people like yourself who I look up to. You're in the paranormal, and I look up to people who are the best in like chemtrails, and I look up to people who are the best in this field and that field, and I say, well, what can I take from them, reciprocate that, and do my own thing to be at the top of my game, to awake as many people as I can to the truth and love vibration. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing. Like a lot of people, like we say, like when we talk about the moon and we talk about recycling souls and how we have reincarnation, certain people won't touch that, Certain people want to talk about gun rights and this and this and this, but they don't want to talk about energy. They don't want to talk about love vibration. And next week, and everyone who's listening, let me tell you, next week we're really going to get into this. We're really going to get into not only how the conscious works, but why activists don't get into the paranormal. Why activists don't want to get into, how energy works. And I'm not going to spoil it, so I'm going to keep on the subject because we still have an hour left.
Well, looks like we actually have a question from chat from Robin, and Robin says, can too much knowledge and involvement with past lives interfere with the lessons intended for this life?
It can for the weak-minded. Okay, what I mean by the weak-minded, like if you're hit with, say 4 or 5 different past lives knowledge at once, and you're just getting into the game, you probably go totally insane. But it can really either A, screw you up to where you want to going backwards, or it will send you in a wrong direction. It depends on your level of consciousness awareness. With me, I think I'm glad I wasn't hit with everything real quick. I honestly am, because if I was hit with everything, I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to handle that. I think maybe as beings we only get as much as we can handle, and maybe some beings get more than we can handle, and they want to. I don't know. I think that it could be a good or bad thing depending on where your level of consciousness is.
Right, and a lot of us.
If that answers that.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of us, at many times at the weaker points in our life, where we'll sink into depression or different things.
And we've all been there, and we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, me and Christina aren't made of platinum. We've been there. We've
oh
been
my goodness!
We've all been
that's
through
the
depression.
thing. We always, when we're in these low points in our lives, when we're really being challenged, we feel that it's more than we can handle.
Sure.
And the interesting thing is that we persevere and push through, and we get through it, and then when we look back at it, we're like, wow,
I can't believe
I can't believe I made it through that, But
right.
then you actually start to realize how strong you are. And like when I'm mentoring my kids that, with disabilities, like I really work to empower them because they are going to deal with, bullying. They are going
Well, they got a lot to deal with on the conspiracy level. That's for damn sure.
Oh, absolutely. And,
get them mental ready. And as a single father, I have a daughter who's born with a couple extra chromosomes. She's a little slow. Her mom ran out on her. This is the second time she ran out on her. The first week was rough because I had to hear the cries. My mommy.
Right.
But she knows who her, she knows that I'm her protector, and she knows. But as a single parent, yes, we have to get them mentally ready. And it's rough. It's rough as a parent, period, to get our kids ready because the rabbit hole is so deep that it could literally drive you insane. So when we I think my advice for you and for anyone who is a single parent, like myself, do it baby steps.
Yeah,
the one thing I tell my daughter, as I said, sweetheart, before you go to school, what's the most important thing in the world? She goes, wow. I said, yep. Yep. I said, no matter what you learn in school, who teaches you real school? She goes, my daddy. I said, yep.
That's right. Well,
and
the whole love and protecting them from the negative stuff out there. Because if we look around us,
it's everywhere. Well, we live, baby, we live on a prison planet. We live on a school that wants to, the parasite, and this is why I say starving and parasite, okay? The parasite wants to condition our kids. They want to say, well, if you're fat, you're not beautiful. That's bullshit, okay? Fat is beauty, okay? We're all beautiful. They want to say, if you don't look like Paris Hilton, you're not beautiful. That's why they have shows like Dancing with the Stars. That's why they have The Biggest Loser. They want to install in the consciousness that, you have to constantly strive to perfect yourself on a physical level. When really that's total BS. And you know what I'm saying? So as parents, again, that goes back to what I said. It's not about what you know. It's about what you do with what you know. Because I don't want to hear, I listen to this radio show host and that radio show. I'm enlightened. No, you're not enlightened. Unless you enlighten others, I don't hear a damn thing you have to say. I have people come up to me all the time. Paul, like, dude, I love what you do. I said, well, what are you doing? Huh? What the fuck are you doing? Huh? I don't want to hear anything that you have to say from this point on. I don't get away. I don't want to hear nothing. I want to know what you're doing. Go home and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, thank you, but go home and do it. And that makes people upset. Hey, I don't care. I don't care. And
I think, I'm probably, and especially the empathic side of me, I look at it a little bit differently because I know that there's a lot of people out there that could not handle the amount of attacks and things that you end up experiencing when you are out there bringing these truths out. So not everybody is made to do what we do. And so I feel like, I'm somebody who can take it. I am going to do it. And so I'm going to be out there for those who are standing behind me, but they just, they can't take the weight of that on their shoulders at this point either. So,
sure, absolutely. I'm not saying screw everyone who supports me. I mean, what I'm saying is there's three type of people in this world. There's people, A, who are winners, B, who are quitters, and C, number 3, people who haven't learned to win. And that's key, okay? People who haven't learned to win. And that's what I'm saying. When people come up to me and they say, wow, great job, great job, thank you. But listen, go home and make it happen. Go home and listen, you love what I do, great. Take what I do and do it better. I have a 17-year-old who is going to be 18 soon, and my daughter, and I'm like, outdo me. Come on with it. You know what I'm saying? Well, my youngest, she's 7, and we run, and I say, baby, beat me in the race. And I'll go slow, and she'll go faster, and I'll let her win sometimes, and sometimes I won't. I say, come on, try. I want my children to look me in the face one day and say, Dad, I love you. for being love, but I did it better. You know, I want them to outdo me. You know what I mean? I want them to take what I do, reciprocate it, and heal the world tenfold, because that's what I do. I'll take what you're doing on this show, reciprocate it, and take your knowledge and really take your knowledge and learn from what you do, and then mix it and merge it with what I do and try to reach as many people as I can. That's what we do, you know?
Well, and I think that's the whole learning process of what we're supposed to be doing here.
Sure.
You know? And
sure.
It's like, for me, I feel like we're here to learn, you know, certain, you know, lessons. And if we
Sure.
learn those lessons, then we graduate to the next, wherever we go. But if we don't,
if we're not recycled by the moon,
right?
But,
Well, yeah. Well, you know, and the thing is that yeah,
true.
I've never,
true.
you know, been able to really unlock that to know.
I'll tell you what. Think of what the moon is. What is the moon? What scientists have already said. Well, first they came with the conclusion that the Earth was hit with a meteorite and a piece broke off and the moon was formed. Okay. Total BS, because when we look at the moon, we realize that the moon is a hollowed body. It's hollow. The moon is a mechanical body. There's no explanation on why the heck the moon is where it is. Now, I know in Wicca, all my Wiccan friends, my high priestess, and my priest and all that, hey, listen, I don't worship the goddess of the moon. I'm sorry, I don't do that, because the moon is not what you think it is. The moon is it was put there on purpose to keep us in a low vibrational state and to recycle our souls. Now, people who say, wow, you're so out there, you're so full of BS, then prove me wrong. Where did the moon come from? The moon is I'm not going to call it a planet because I don't believe it's a planet. Mm-hmm. Okay, but NASA shot nukes at the moon, and it was hollow, okay? We found structures on the moon. We found artifacts on the moon. On the dark side of the moon, we're not even going to get into the bases that are on the dark side of the moon is hollow. We found towers on the moon, and they claim that these towers are the towers that are recycling our souls. Basically, when you die, now people say, okay, Paul, well, I'm this good, great person. I do all this good in the world. When I die, what's the frigging point? Because I'm only going to be recycled, and my soul memory is going to be stripped anyway. So what's the point of doing all this good anyway? Because I'm not going to remember it. Okay. Here's the prison break. Okay. This is what I get into. What I say, starving the parasite. This is how we do it. This is how we are not recycled. We realize that parasites have the ability to reincarnate us, okay? This is why we have deja vu. We are literally recycled and reincarnated. If people question that, fine. We've had reincarnation. Half of everyone's listening. I mean, where does it come from? Okay? It has to come from somewhere. People can say, well, we go to other planets and we choose to come here. Now, I'm just saying, when I look around, I see my sky is poisoned. I see autistic children. I see a lot of shit that's bad. Okay? I see a lot of things that are bad. And I ask myself why. And, and then when I ask myself why, I ask myself, what can I do to stop it, to educate people, to raise their vibrations? Because what's really going on right now is that I believe that we're in a time, I think a lot of people say, they refer to Nibiru and all that stuff, but they say we're in a 3,600-year cycle of to where we're in a point where we're judged or we get our prison break. A lot of people say every 3,600 years. Basically, we all go to the moon, to the light at the end of the tunnel. We're all recycled. We're all food for the parasites. This is obviously proven through coliseums, war, staged events, blah, blah, blah. But I think that through each and every life that we go through, we have one chance. And I met a hybrid, okay, who I talked about it in other shows, who I met through the Army. And the one thing that really got me from her, that she said to me, Ruth, she talks in riddles. Well, they all talk in riddles, these off-worlders. But the one thing that she said to me was, she goes, well, I think I said to her, I said, well, that's no big deal. That's the next time. She goes, what if there's not a next time? And I get into a lot of, and that's what struck me, because I get into a lot of humanity being recycled, with a lot of people who have been abducted and these hybrid children, and how these hybrid children are basically going to take over the planet. And that's not a big whoo-hoo-hoo, because if we look at history and humanity, there have been civilizations who have came, gone, and evolved. This is fact. This is not fiction. Okay? So, you know, I love her to death. It's a shame she's married. It sucks, because hybrid or not, I love her to death. I hope she hears this, but because I find beauty in everything. But other than that, you know, my thing is what if this is our last shot? As DNA-wise, your DNA, my DNA, everyone who's listening to this, our DNA. What if this is our last chance to get out of this prison planet? To say, hey, look, I'm going to raise my vibration enough to where I realize shit's fucked up, to where I realize there's suffering. You know what I'm saying? So I realize there's different dimensions, different existences, different realities, but I want to raise my vibration enough to where I want to fight for what's right, but raise as many people up as I can to come on that ride of paradise with me. You know what I'm saying? Because if there is the gods, if there is the ones who are recycling us, you know, I think that if these beings are on a higher or lower conscious, regardless, I think that they have to view us with some type of respect to say, hey, look, man, you're not a sheeple. Hey, look, Christina, you're not a piece of crap like the rest of the zombies. See, we've earned our fucking prison break, okay? Not because we have knowledge, but because it's what we're doing with that knowledge. And I'm going to say this right here on this show. You know what? As much pain as I've gone through in this life, as much knowledge that I have right here in this life, man, honestly, fuck it. I want to be recycled again. You know what I'm saying? I want to come back again until every motherfucking body is I want to come back again. First off, when I die, I want them to look me in my eyes and realize who I am and that I'm of love. Because if they really have that control, I want them to look me in my eyes, realize that I'm love, and say, you know what? Give me the fucking choice to either ascend or descend. And I'm going to choose to descend. Because I have that much hope in not only humanity, but everybody, that if it means me being stripped of my memory 1,000 times to come back and do what I'm doing, I mean, god damn, my past sucked. My history, you know, what I've gone through sucked. But the blessing of being able to do what we do right now, shit, recycle me 1,000 times in worse circumstances, just to give me the knowledge that I know now to do it again. If I can save 500 people out of the, what do I get, 4,000 views on fucking YouTube, I don't care. If I can save 500 in one lifetime, recycle me 1,000,000 times. Make me suffer 1,000,000 times, if that's what it takes for others to make it. That's my selflessness. That's my passion. Because, I mean, there's nights when I'm just like, it's so overwhelming.
It's like, why do you do it? Like, yeah.
I do it because why we do it.
Right.
Because I love the hugs. I love going to a park and seeing, like, disabled kids at a rally against Monsanto, knowing that, like, their parents are there for love for them, even though there's parasites in when it's a vibrational frequency. And I think that that's the purpose. You know, even if I die and I'm getting ready to be your next, like, well, dude, you graduated. There's no one going back. I'm like, I'm going to be fighting. Like, screw you. You know, because that's, you know, and people say,
well,
you're not making...
I've actually heard that, you know, when we come back, we can choose.
I hate when I get emotional. Because
no, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because that has been said to me that, you know,
sure.
People can choose to come back and they choose, you know, all of this, which, I don't know, for me, it's just kind of like, it blows me away sometimes, because, you know, I'm thinking, well, yeah, you know, my whole life I've chose, you know, to learn things the hard way always, you know, so, yeah, maybe that would be true, that I would, you know, to keep trying to, you know, get through it and figure it out. I do feel, though, that, you know, I do get it. And the thing is I'm now being tested over and over to see, like, once you get to that kind of, for me, is this calm and this peace. I'm very empathic.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly
right.
what you mean.
I'm very emotional, and so depending on, the people around me, I can be either, like, sometimes, like, I can get so overwhelmed and so angry, and I'll cry.
Yeah, exactly.
And people will think,
exactly.
That they've...
Well, that's not who you are, Christina. You're supposed to be this love vibrational angel. No.
Right.
This is who the frig we are, and that's the thing. Like, we're not this esoteric, like, set in stone goddess and gods. We're not like.
Well, we're human. We're human, and that's how.
We are. Right, and that's Christina, hon. This is what these New Agers piss me off about. Like, they're like, well, we're going to ignore the evil. We're going to ignore the fact that parasites recycle cells through the moon, and we're going to ignore the fact that they're killing people off. What pisses me off about them is that they act so pure, but really that's not. If you were that pure, you would not operate on this dimensional level. We are on the third dimensional planet, okay? If you were a fucking fifth or sixth dimensional being, you would not be in the physical. You would not be here talking the shit you're talking. These channelers and all. I challenge them on YouTube, but when they see my popularity, they just literally don't comment. Or they comment, but they don't really get hardcore with me. Because I'm like, look, dude, speak your mind. Like, I think you're full of shit because you're not a 5D. You're not a 5D, like, Ashtar Command, like... I've been totally blocked from the, what's that group? The Ashtar Command, the Galactic Federation. Like, you know why they blocked me? Because I'm real. I pump out love vibration, baby. Look, you pump out love vibration, right? That's not what we don't. We pump out love vibration, but we pump it out real. And they don't want real. They want the status quo of, and I think they serve the parasite because they pump out like, oh, let's meditate, hold hands. Forget that the trees behind me are dying, and I love my Wiccan people and my occultist people on that level because you can say what you want about them, but they love nature. They love Mother Earth. Okay, only thing I don't agree with them with is the moon, the goddess of the moon. But one of my bestest friends lives in New Hampshire, and she owns she don't own, but she's in like 3 covens. So she's a high priestess. Her name's Nancy. She'll hear this, but And I love the fact that people try to discredit real people because they're full of crap. And you're not, we operate on a third dimensional existence. Unless you're a fifth or sixth dimensional being, you wouldn't even be here because this is a school for the soul. This is a prison until we earn our pardons, okay? And like you say, there's going to be people who are asleep, who we call the zombies. And I hate to call them that, but, there's people who just cannot be reached, okay? They will be recycled. People like us and others, we will be given a choice. Look, I want to meet the maker in his face or her face or its face or the reptilian. I want to meet you. And I'm going to tell you, look, honestly, hon, I'm going to come back. I want to come back. I love you all. Like, it's no shit. I'm like a warrior, and I don't mean that to be a badass. Like, I want to, I understand that there's evil. And I want to look evil in the eye and say, hey, look, I saved people. I know you're evil. Fuck it. Throw me back in the mix. Let me fight you again. Give me the chance to do it again. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know. I think that each of us, we have a purpose,
sure.
Here. And again, I think some of us are the ones that are out there that, are putting out the truth. I think some of us are, like you, much more in the forefront than, I'm very vocal on the obviously in social media and on my radio shows. But I am very much about the whole, like, I do meditate all the time. I do try to not ignore because, the stuff that's going on around me, because that's the reality of it. And so I need to keep an eye on what's going on. So if I do need to do something, I can do it, but I do the right thing.
Right. But until that time comes, keep your vibrational energy up.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I do is, like, I say, hey, look, any negativity you have to preach to me, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. Okay, I want to keep my circle positive. Okay, will I express interest in certain things? Absolutely, but like people, there's certain things I shut off. Like, I just discontinued myself from a chemtrail group. It's one of the hugest groups on Facebook. I said, look, I'm done. Everyone's posting chemtrail. Like, look, I'm done. Like, you're not talking about, okay, there's chemtrails, but what can we do about it? You're not saying, okay, there's chemtrails being sprayed, but can I go on other media sites and do something about it? Can I raise love vibration? And that's the beautiful thing about mixing universalism with activism. And a lot of people said it wouldn't happen. And I looked in the eye and I said, well, hey, you can say whatever you want, but I've interviewed Arcturus Ra. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but yes, I've had that man on the show, on the Moment of Truth. And let me tell you something. He is one of the biggest, him and his girlfriend, supporters of hybrids, supporters of love vibration. One of the biggest out there. I would say kind of like I am with universal and activism. And he said himself, we cannot sit on our asses, on our butts, and pretend things aren't going wrong. There's nothing wrong with us raising our vibrational energy to keep out certain negatives out. When the negative comes to us, we deal with it. We handle it, and we make sure we manifest it into love. And, that's the thing. We have to. But everyone, I'm sorry, sweetheart, go ahead.
Well, no, what I was going to ask is, we were talking about the question from Chad about past lives. Now, I'm starting to, because I talk to a lot of people, some that are abductees, some have paranormal, experiences, a lot of things. But again, they are starting to remember bits and pieces of memories that seem to be theirs, that things that they don't actually remember, in this lifetime. So they're starting to think about, could it be a past life? And that is now a topic that actually has gained a lot of interest. And we have a lot of people, and I know, a few of them that, are doing the hypnotherapy and the past life regression therapy, things like that. Do you think past lives, should be revealed? And if you're saying that your memories are being wiped, then are they actually being wiped, or are they just being, kind of blocked out, or, locked?
I understand the question. All right. So basically what the question is, not to cut you off, but the question is basically, are our memories being wiped, or are we basically choose for our memories to not be remembered, so that way we can spiritually progress as beings? Is that what you're going to ask?
Yes.
All right. I think that again, we live on a third-dimensional planet, and that I'm not saying negative now, because when we look around us, the facts are the facts. We'll get into this next week, because we're going to get into next week about conspiracy and what we can do to stop it. I believe, in my own experience, and I may be wrong, again, don't believe anything I say, go home, investigate your own truth, and empower yourself to empower others. I believe that we live around parasites, okay? We live around the Bush family. They're all pedophiles and perverts, all right? We live around what's his name? Clinton. He just got pulled up for charges of having a pedophile, paradise on an island. I don't know if you've seen that on Facebook. You'll see it.
No.
Hillary Clinton is majorly pissed because her husband's now not only got a foreplay with what's her name, Malinsky, but now he's a pervert. Okay, the people who run the show, the offshore bankers, the parasites who control the world, we are on a prison planet. Okay, the beings that the beings who operate with us, we have to understand they are other dimensional beings. Even presidents, princes, the offshore bankers, they have a certain bloodline, okay? That goes back to the Babylonian and Sumerian times that they call the gods, the watchers, okay? So basically, they are feeding off our energy. This planet is a school for the soul. I believe that basically our memories are stripped. When we die, we follow the light. If you believe in Jesus or Jehovah, if you believe in Allah, and I'm going to screw 12 versions, well then, hey, you're going to have sex with 12 versions. That's what you're going to have, and you're going to enjoy that. And then, hey, guess what, pal? Back into the Matrix. Boom. Okay, your memory is stripped. Okay. If you believe that you're going to see Jesus and your family members, well, guess what? You are going to see Jesus and your family members, and poof, poof, you're going to be recycled, and your memory is going to be stripped. If you're not consciously aware of how the matrix I hate when I stutter. How the matrix works, that is what happened. Okay, your soul memory is going to be stripped. As far as, is it going to be stripped so that way you can come back and relearn things? That's if there is a choice, which I hope there is. Like you said, we have a choice. Okay, maybe when let's say when I die again. Okay, I meet the makers or creators, and they say, Paul, you have a choice. You can ascend to 5D, 6D, 7D, leave the planet. Okay, all right, or you can stay here, go back to 3D. We're not saying we're not going to be parasites, because we are. We're not saying there's not going to be wars, because there are. We're not saying there's not going to be poison and murder and rape and chaos, because there is. But you have the choice to come back, okay? But your soul memory will be stripped when you come back, okay? So us who are consciously evolved, we are giving that choice to come back. But when you come back, your soul memory will be stripped. Okay? Now, people that are like your average Wawa or Kroger or Walmart worker who knows nothing about the consciousness, there is no option, okay? There is no like, oh, well, I die and, I die and my consciousness and my soul, we have a choice to do this or do that. We're dealing with parasites. And, God, I don't want to sound negative, but we really are. Like, I believe in love vibration. I believe in choice, but we live on a third-dimensional planet, okay? And that's why people say, well, this ascension process, this great awakening. Yes, there is. But when we ascend and when we awakening and when we get to the 4, 5, 6D dimensions, we're no longer operate on this planet vibrational third-dimensional level. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The only people who operate on this third-dimensional level are people who are foods for the parasites. This is their playground, okay? So, the average Walmart worker who knows nothing about the consciousness, will he be given a choice? I mean, I don't know. I think not. I think that you have to earn your prison break. You have to literally go through a lot of recycling and lifetimes and a lot of hardships and learning to get to the point to where you, A, understand the matrix that we live in, to B, understand the parasites that control it, and to C, understand how we can raise enough vibrational frequency to help others. If you haven't got to that point, well then, I mean, you are going to be food for the parasite. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Sorry to sound negative. I'm sorry to sound negative, but I don't want to be.
Well, if that's the, lessons, that are learned here.
Yeah, this is how I feel.
If you look at across, time, you see that people are going through, a lot more hardships, and it's getting harder, and there's, more suicides, and there's, more people struggling, and just more people with depression, and so it is. And
they're going to be the ones that are going to be recycled, right? But go ahead.
So maybe it is, a lesson that, we
that
have
they have
to
learn, right?
It is these kinds of things, and I'll tell you, because as a teenager, I didn't understand what was going on around me, and I was scared. I was very reactive. I was very angry because I felt like, there was nobody to help me. Nobody was trying to protect me. Like, I didn't know what to do, what was happening, nothing, and so, but I think that that's the whole point of our existence, is for us to grow. And
But then again, as a teenager, you know, before you were even born, okay, Christina, before you were even recycled, as a teenager, there's the hardships and all that you went through, okay? That was a process for you to be who and where you are right now, okay? So you,
absolutely.
at that time, you were going through that learning experience, good or bad. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was fucking good and some of it was bad. But going through that, you weren't aware of who you were going to become, okay? You were the seedling that was obviously going to sprout into who you are now. So now you have earned your prison break. You have, you know, you've went through many and many and many of lifetimes and reincarnations. I mean, you know, you would think, wow, I went through all these reincarnations. I shouldn't have this shitty teenage childhood. You know what I'm saying?
No,
but
you know what,
no.
for me...
This is your graduation, though, so you had to become who you are, but go ahead.
Right, but I think that's exactly... I think that it took all these times because I've actually had some very well-known, incredible people in the field read me over the years. And one thing that they told me about my past lives was that I had, you know, many lives before where I, you know, died very tragically.
Oh, yeah, or had really, really, really nasty, bad experiences. I hear you.
Yeah, you know, so...
I've had them in dream state. I've had them in... I've had dreams where I was in, I don't know. See, when I was in the Army, I left the Army, I met the hybrid I met, we talked about it on the other show. And I am where I am now, but in past lives, I didn't get as far as I got now, okay? In past lives, I was in military prison where I said, hey, look, I'm going to frigging expose the underground bases. I'm going to expose the dark matter technology and the stuff that you have and the Illuminati, or they call themselves the Illumicorps. And I didn't make it this far, okay? I was in prison. I did not make it this far. I've had it where I made it almost this far, and I remember I was in a car and I flew off a bridge, and boom, that was it. So, you know, and I had a really, okay upbringing, a lot of bad things, but, you know, it's a blessing being where I'm at and being, I graduated, you know what I mean? I'm where I'm at, so, you're where you're at, so, and I think that's a blessing. It's great, because, you know, for me, I mean, I'm broke, I'm poor, I mean, I have a nice house, I'm a single father, I mean, I don't have to worry about money, okay, but I'm not wealthy, all right? And
but most of us aren't. And most
you know what I'm saying?
I
mean, I have a nice house. I have a nice house, a beautiful daughter, two daughters, and I'm like, there's not a day that doesn't go by. Like when I went to Vegas, okay, I had $35 in my pocket, and I was homeless in Vegas, and I met so many decent people on Facebook. I mean, I made so many badass videos. And I made money, believe it or not, while I was in Vegas. I turned that 35 into like what, $450. I was homeless. I mean, I was still homeless, but you know, it was kind of like, to me, it was kind of like polishing the armor, you know. And you know, when I was 19, I had a rough up. Well, I was 18, I had a rough upbringing, and for a year and a half, I was in a homeless shelter. And I think the fame gets you, and it really does, because when I started getting into activism, I started getting a big head, and a voice came to me. It was like, look, you're going to Vegas. You're Mr. Big Shot. You're Mr. Badass. You're going to Vegas. You're going to go. And that's what I did. I treated all my friends at a bar. We all hung out. Look, I'm going to Vegas. Hung with all my ex-girlfriends. We all hung out. Again, we're not perfect. We all have fun. And I went to Vegas with $35 in my pocket. It was the most amazing experience I had in my whole life. Because you know what? That really brought me down. You're fighting for these people. You're fighting for ascension. You're fighting for love vibration, and be about it. Don't talk about it. Because what happened was everything I was doing was catching up to me. Going to Vegas brought me down to reality and really brought me back to oneness. It really brought me back to the people. And there's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't think of, like, you know, my past lives. I don't think of Vegas and me cleaning my clothes and, you know, and in the bathroom and a homeless shelter, you know, and hanging them over the railing and standing in a food line. I mean, literally, I was depending on people to feed me. And out of the 5 Christmases that I had, you know, I was out feeding people in Philadelphia. Last Thanksgiving, I was feeding people in the food kitchen. I had my daughter with me. I have pictures on Facebook. You know, it's a blessing. And I think that, you know, this is what we do. So being recycled, you know, we live on a planet. It's rough. It's you know, and you've earned your. If you choose to die when you die, or well, we all don't die, but when you pass over, okay, it's your choice if you want to ascend or not. You know, you're beautiful in the physical now as an individual, and when you pass, if you say, hey, look, I've had enough, I had fun, time to go. I want to experience, you know, 5-6 dimensional reality, and I want to chill. I want to relax. You know, then you've earned that right. You've been through the suffering. And when I say you've been through the suffering, is because we all have to go through that. Well, why, Paul? Why do we have to go through the moon matrix and the moon recycling? Why? Why can't we just, you know, live one life of harmony? We can't. Because we live on a prison planet with parasites, okay? And they force us to earn that prison break. And in a way, it's a good thing. Because that builds our soul up. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't want to go on a 6-dimensional reality in existence without having the bumps and bruises, you know? Give me a couple thousand years on the 3rd-dimensional existence where I've been recycled a couple 100 times. You know what I mean? Until I'm ready. You know what I'm saying?
Perfect. I mean, absolutely.
I don't mean to sound crazy, but, you know, that's just how I feel.
Well, that's why I like to bring, you know, all different
Yeah,
people
it's great
on
to
my
be
show.
crazy. It's great to bring psychopaths on the show because in order to understand the psychopaths who are destroying this planet, you have to be, and I say this a lot of times, especially when I do lectures, you have to have a psychopathic mentality of love vibration in order to understand a psychopath of negative vibration. And I mean this, okay? I am a psychopath. I'm crazy, okay? But I have to be. Because if I'm not a psychopath and complete lunatic for love and for change, then I will never understand the darkness that holds humanity and other beings, keyword, and other beings down. Because until you get that psychopathy mentality of love vibration in your mind, you're not going to be able to fight evil. Because you have to understand. One of the greatest guests, which actually may be a good guest on your show, his name is Curtis Davis. He was in the occult. I don't know. I think he might even be still in the occult. But, you know, and he really says what the Illuminati think of people. They think we're bottom feeders. They think we're trash. We have to earn it. We have to earn it, you know? And it may take us a couple lifetimes through recycling through the moon, okay? But he says it. His name is the Illuminated One, Curtis Davis. And I want to throw his name out because he's not on my Facebook anymore. He disappeared. He was one of the best, one of the few good ones that I had. And he says, you cannot fight darkness without first understanding yourself and darkness and love vibration. You understand what I'm saying? You can't say, well, this reptilians that are holding us down are evil, or these humans that are holding us down are evil, unless you understand. First, you have to understand the consciousness and the motivation of them, and then you have to have the driven drive of a psychopath of change. I mean, you have to literally say, this is what I believe, and I'm willing to die for it. Give up my children, my family, my loved ones. I am literally willing to give up everything I have for the truth and to save everyone who is a victim of this prison planet. You have to really have that psychopathic mindset that, you know, there's times like when people, like you say, have depression. It's like, wow, you know, I get so much negative feedback on Facebook or emails, and I'm so depressed. I just want to say, fuck it, I want to quit. I want to stay with my daughter, and I just want to raise my grandchildren and just say, fuck it. I don't even want to be a radio host anymore. And I just want to say, you know what? I'm done. I've done what I can. I'm done. And then that warrior instinct kicks in. You know? And that's why I laugh. Come on, girl. Because I'm reading you right now. Hey, I'm not a psychic. Am I reading the psychic? I'm going to read you right now on a live radio show. Go ahead, because I'm hitting it. I'm hitting the conscience. You ready? This is what happens. Yeah. So you say, I'm done with it. Fuck it. I'm just going to, I've done enough for humanity. I've done enough for other beings. I'm just going to, enjoy my family Walk away, and you can walk away, but you can't.
I can't.
We are drug addicts to the game. We are literally drug addicts to helping raise vibration and doing what we do. We can't stop. I've had people come to me. I've had visions, dreams like, Paul, stop, dude, just stop. This is it, dude. You've done it all. I mean, I've done chemtrails. I've done every single thing, vaccines, love, everything. I broke records, I guess, in other people's minds. Shit that has been done, not only in Pennsylvania, but around the world, the way we do this. Stop. It's enough. You're done. Okay? Enjoy your daughter. You have a nice house. Stop. I stopped for a week. I can't. And neither can you. Am I hitting the spot? I know I am, because you've had them thoughts in your head. Am I lying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have you ever?
I mean,
have you ever had them thoughts in your mind?
oh, yeah, many times. I mean, this is something I've struggled with, I absolutely, to be honest, since I really became in the public eye, because
it makes you want to quit. Yeah.
I was not somebody who really had that tough skin that could, let that stuff bounce off me. I took it very personal, and so I wanted to be able to, convince each and every person that they were wrong about what they were hearing or listening to, and prove everything, and the thing that I learned is that, I'm here to help a very specific amount of people. I'm not here, I can't save everybody. That's something that is my reality. But, what my purpose is. And see, and again, I feel we all have our own purpose here.
Sure.
And some are, again, like you, very aggressive, very out there, bring the truth out.
I am aggressive, and I don't immediately. I'm not trying to be low vibrational, but I'm just.
No. But I don't take.
We do have light warriors in the.
That's the wrong word. That are very passionate, like you. So you're very aggressive to what the concept of all of this is about getting this information out, and not going to be stopped and all of this kind of stuff. For me, again, I'm on even at a different level because, yes, I am very passionate about everything, but I have gone from a point where, I was very angry and very bitter and couldn't, forgive or things like that to the person who I am now. And for me, it's like each time that I learn to be a little bit more in control, each time I'm attacked and I come back from it, I gain that control of keeping my composure and still sending out, a positive vibration without having to get, angry about it or anything like that for me, because again, I'm very empathic. So it's like I really have to be able to shield myself and really be able to keep myself grounded. Otherwise, that hate that these people throw out at me,
they are the parasite.
It's like this kryptonite to me.
Yeah.
So the thing is that these are like the lessons of learning, about my protection and my grounding and, being able to deflect this kind of stuff. So, for me, again, I don't waste my time on trying to convince people of things, because once somebody gets it in their mind, until something happens in their own life that makes them change their mind, it's going to have to be on their own terms, not on mine. So for me, it's like, okay, if you want to believe that I'm a serial killer and that I've been on the
Oh, come on. I've seen you in my house a couple of times. I've seen you peeking in my window. I know where you're going. You're a little serial killer.
Oh, my gosh, Paul, you have to understand.
Actually, if I've seen you peeking my window, I might actually say, hey, come in and have a cup of coffee. But no, I don't think you're a serial killer.
It was so funny because I would read this stuff. And I would say, wow, this week I'm on the run and I've, stolen, haunted artifacts and I've sold them for $200,000.
Here's the thing. Let's say you're an ex-drug addict, ex-stripper, ex-methamphetamine crackhead lunatic. Let's say that you were, okay? I'm not saying that you are, but I don't think you are. But if you were, if you were, let's say you were in a gang and you shot up people 187, all kinds of like LA shit. What are you doing now? What you're doing now is way more than what anyone who has anything to say about you is doing. So, you know, who gives a shit? Who gives a rat's ass what you were doing then? Not that you were doing that.
Is if it would have been true,
maybe you were a
I guess it would have been one thing.
and you'd whip somebody's ass, but you're not the same person now. You evolved. You are on a higher vibration now. It doesn't matter who you were. You see the girl in a parking lot and you whip some ass. Who cares? Who are you now? Who are you now?
Right, absolutely. But you know,
not that you won't whip somebody's ass now, but who are you now? You're You're a badass. You're a badass, low vibrational, paranormal woman who, you know, is letting the hate flow like a duck in the water. And we're probably going to talk about this next week because we need to talk about this more. But, you know, listen, Christina will whoop your ass 5 years ago, okay? She may have whooped your ass 10 years ago, okay? She'll whoop your ass now. But, you know, you've progressed into who you are now. All right?
I really am, and I won't let anybody take that from me.
Maybe nobody can take nothing. Listen. No one can take anything. Okay? No one can take anything from nobody. Okay? People who know me know I'm from Philadelphia. I don't candy coat anything. When I was at my chemtrail protest, people want to talk trash. I will come up to you in your face and I will expose your ass. I will expose it. When I had my chemtrail protest, they had not only did they have the government agents, but they had people. There was, I believe, a lot of them. There were like 11 of them that were meeting at a restaurant bar. So I said, hey, well, you're going to expose me? I'm going to come to the restaurant bar. I came to the restaurant bar. I had a couple shots, had a couple drinks. I said, hey, what's up? I said, guess what? I'm the guy here you're trying to expose. I said, you're going to expose me? I said, good. See you in about an hour, pal. As soon as I seen them in front of the 50 people we had there, my journalistic skills kicked in and their whole energy dropped. Like, I don't know. You can just feel it. Because I was like, so, well, you know about this about chemtrails. What do you know about this and vibrational energy? So, you know, what did you know that? I mean, I just hit them with every single thing. We even had Fox News come out and try to, like, persuade us from being there. I got in their face. I was in the face of the CIA agents. Their whole energy drops, you see? It's a good thing to have that badass past in us. Because you know what? Hey, look, I'm going to keep the badass in me. Because if you want to be a parasite, if you want to be a hater, fine. I'm not, I'm going to let you know. I'm not going to sit back and take it. Okay? I'm not going to take it because I have people that love me and you have people that love you and know what the truth is. And that's all that matters.
And
that's all that matters.
The thing, though. But that's where, for me, I won't, fight back. That for me, there's.
Well, it doesn't make us weaker if we fight. It's not fighting back. It's pushing ignorance into ignorance. Do you understand? And it's fine. We have light warriors and we have light workers. You're a light worker, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I do is I'm a light warrior, and you already know that.
Right.
I'm very outgoing. I'm very outspoken. So when you want to come with me with your low vibration, I'm going to take your low vibration. And I kind of refer to this when I say I can do astral magic. I've actually learned this not too long ago, but kind of like what's called a force. I hate when I stutter. A force push in Star Wars, where you take your energy and push it, and that's what I do to the parasite. What I call the parasite. So when you want to come out with your negative energy, some people say, "Oh, we'll come on from above." No, what I do is, when they came at me with their negative vibration, I said, hey, look, here's your negative vibration. I'm going to push it towards you, make you face your negative energy. I want you to face your darkness, and then I'm going to hit you with a little bit of low vibration. Like that's what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm on the battlefield, sword and shield, you're the one, if I get cut down, you're the one casting a healing spell. And that's great because that's who we are. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Not that you weren't a badass in the past, but there's nothing wrong with your past. Your past is what you've outgrown that. And I think for people to say, like, well, I know Christina back when she was stripping on the pole down on 2nd Street and she was when she was whipping
I didn't hear that one, but okay.
When she was whipping it, I'm just saying, but like she was kicking butt drinking 40s on 42nd Street. Who cares? Here's the thing. Yeah, she was drinking 40s, hanging out and having a good time, but here's Christina now. Where are you at? You're the one following her on Twitter. Huh? What? What'd you say? You're the one following her on YouTube, huh? What? What'd you say? You're the one bitter, huh? Huh? What'd you say? Shut up. We don't want to shut up. We don't want to hear it. You know, and that's just great because you graduated, and at the end of it, light as the tunnel, you should have your choice. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing. You know, they say we go full circle, you know, and it's a blessing being back on the show. And because the moon matrix is something that I really wanted to dabble in, because I believe that the parasites that control this third dimensional existence, again, they understand how the subconscious and the conscious works. They understand how vibrational energy works, and these are low vibrational beings, and they will create ISIS, and they will create terroristic outcomes, and they will create a bowl of bullshit. And they will create this and create that to put people in a low vibrational state. You understand? And that's what I get back to the 3,600-year cycle, what I said earlier, okay? They know that we are in a time as humanity to where we are ready, okay? We are ready. Some of us, not all of us, because some of us are just basically going to be recycled because we're not on a higher vibrational frequency, okay? You're a Walmart worker who wants to watch football all day and beat his wife for being an asshole, okay? Him. So he's going to be recycled, okay? Not that he, you know, if I can reach him in time, if I can reach him, and like I say, we have winners, quitters, and people who have not been taught to win. And I want to express that, push that. People who have not been taught to win, because you have winners, quitters, people who win, people who quit, and people who have not been taught to win. And people who have not been taught to win are what I call people that you need to put your hand down and reach up, okay? It's easy for people to say, Christine is this, Christine is that, Christine is this, and to be evil in the world, or Paul's this, Paul's that. Real strength comes not by how strong you are or how badass you are. Real strength comes from lifting your arm down to your fellow being and saying, listen, I want to hold you up. I want to bring you up. And that's really all I have to say. These beings operate on a low vibrational frequency, and, you know, yes, they have the power to recycle souls. Yes, they have the power to, and they're using the moon to do it. Look at David Icke. Look up David Icke. Look up different books. That David Icke's not the only one, okay? I didn't get my information off David Icke. I got it through, like I said, through my own personal experience. Then I was referred to David Icke and what he does, and David Icke was literally followed other people who've done it. So, you know, this isn't something that's new, all right? So the moon matrix is real. But it's what do we want to do? I mean, these beings think, again, Curtis Davis, okay? Remember his name. He's an occultist. And he says that the elitists, the illuminated ones, look at us as we're not worthy. We're not worthy enough to. They poison us because they create low vibrational situations because until we empower ourselves to change things, then we are dog shit to them. You understand? The Illuminati are the enlightened ones. And I know people can say, well, how are they enlightened when they're evil? They're the Illuminati. Because they understand how conscious works. They understand how the vibrational energy works. They choose to be evil, but they understand how frequency works, okay? So they are, in a sense, illuminated. They are. They just choose to use the illuminated energy in a different vibrational level, okay? So, wow, this is a lot. But they choose to use that, and they kind of figure, well, fuck you. If you're not consciously awakened enough to do something about it, and reptilian beings that are listening to this, and other dimensional beings that are listening to this, they know what I'm talking about. They know what I'm saying because it's right. A lot of them look down on humans, like, yo, you're dog shit. Like you. Instead of doing what you have to do, you're going to go to your state representative. Oh, I want a birth certificate. Oh, I need a lawyer. I need to do this. Dude, they look down on us. They created this reality, this false illusional reality system. When we decide to empower ourselves, then we get our prison break. And that's really all I have to say. Resistance is necessary. Love is key. I will see each and every one of you next week. We're going to talk about Monsanto. We're going to talk about chemtrails. We're going to talk about gun rights. We're going to talk about everything that's going wrong systematically with the system, and we're going to talk about how taking the fucking system, breaking it down, and bringing ourselves up. And really, Christina, I really don't have anything else to say. I'm not nothing to say.
I want to say, myself. Thank you very much for you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you so much. And you know, it's a blessing. It's great. It's great being able to express myself to someone who is real. Like you've had a real life. You know, you've had a real childhood. You're from the streets. You know, you're from realness. You know,
Right.
You're not just someone who just decides to get a podcast and just blah 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 blah. So we connect with that realness, and it's good to share. So, you know, again, if I can reach 10 people out of 10,000 that are listening, then I've done my job. I mean, you know, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I mean, I've had CIA agents, and I have this on my YouTube.com/PrinceTruthChaser. You know, I've had agents come to my protest, and when they came to my protest, they're like, "Well, we know who you are." It's all on video. The one where I'm interviewing them is really the audio. It was hacked, so the audio video is out of sync, but you can still hear them talk. The second one, I actually had a guy who videoed it, so I'm actually videoing his video. But long story short, they knew who I was. They thought 250 people were going to show up, and they got scared. And the parasites brought their guard dogs out, and I confronted them. The best way to starve the parasite is to, you know, love each other. I mean, look, man, you know, I have, well, you know, black, yellow, red, and white, we are precious in this sight. And you know how that goes?
Yep.
Even green, even red, I don't care. I mean, we're all human beings. I have 2 black brothers. I have an aunt who I have black cousins. I have, Puerto Rican people in my family. No Chinese people, but you know, we're all real. We're all one. And I think that the reason that we have different countries like Chinese here, Iraqis here, Africans here, Puerto Ricans here, is because they separate us, because they know when we realize oneness, that's when my vibration kicks in, when we're all one. And, you know, this would take like 5 hours for me to actually really dig deep into it. And again, I'm just, you know, like I said, coming from where we came from, I'm just blessed. I mean, screw my past as far as like, oh, well, I lived in the ghetto or did this. But just being able to consciously be on a level to understand these things, to understand different dimensional beings, to understand supernatural things like ghosts or shadow people or anything, it's just, when you look at how many people don't know these things, it's just a blessing.
Well, again, I feel that we all go through, you know, different things. We have our own experiences. That's why I love to have, you know, the opportunity to have my show, to bring people on. You know,
sure.
I like to bring people on that, you know, have opinions that are all different. I mean, I think that's how we grow, because if we all just continue to just, you know, always just think the same thing, we have to push those boundaries, we have to push those envelopes, and we have to, you know, people have to hear all different kinds of opinions and then see what resonates with them, you know, so they know what to do. And so, you know, again, I appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to you being on the show, Alien UFOs and Beyond, next week.
Absolutely, absolutely.
On Wednesday, be a great show.
And absolutely, this is about the moon matrix and recycling the soul, and this is about reincarnation. Hopefully, I covered enough on this. Next week, we're going to talk about the system. We're going to talk about the man, you know, the one who poisons our air, poisons our food, poisons our water. What can we do about it? And you know, again, like Christina said, I mean, we have to unite. We can't just be paranormal and be alien this and activist that, because we're all one. Everything is one. We're all energy. And that's it. It is what it is. And I'm hell-bent on merging this together, and through this show, I'm able to do that. I mean, if 90,000, 100,000 people are listening to this, like, again, I said earlier when I first started, don't take anything I said with truth. Take it with a grain of salt. Go out, okay? Do your own homework. Do your own experience. Do your own research. And not only grow from that, but empower others to empower themselves. Because what we talk about, what you learn, doesn't mean jack shit. Okay? We could have all the knowledge in the world, my friends, but if we don't do something with that knowledge, it means nothing. It's worthless. Really is.
Well, now, if anybody out there that's listening tonight, you know, is resonating with them, and they would like to contact you, where can they contact you at, or where can they find you?
PrinceTruthChaser at yahoo.com, phillytruth@gmail.com, youtube.com/PrinceTruthChaser, www.facebook.com/PaulWesley286. Now, when you do contact me on Facebook, let me know you're from the show, because if you have an account that's just like 2 profile pics and you're just some weirdo, I mean, I'm not going to
get at it.
Yeah, I'm not going to get at it. So you're going to have to say, hey, look, I know you're from the show, and that's it. Like, it's great being on the show. I'm really hyped for next week.
All right.
Great.
Geez, I'm losing my voice for some reason. Thank goodness it's at the end of the show. Yeah, I'm all right. Just have to get some water. But, again, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. We will look forward to having you on Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond next week, talking about everything conspiracy. Boy, I can't wait for that show.
Let's merge it together. Let's merge it together, because that's what we need to do. Let's merge it together.
There you go. It's all about getting the truth out there. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, same network. And I'm also make sure to check out the Facebook page. Like it, and not only that, but we've been asking people, what do you want to hear on the show? Do you want, what kind of guests, what kind of topics? We're going to be all over the place this year, so it's kind of like no holds barred. So anything you want, let us know. We're going to try to get those guests on and those topics on here and bring you more of what you want, so that we have another great year. So, all right, everybody, this is the end of the show. We will see you next week. Thank you so much, Paul, for being on the show, and we will see you next week on Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. Good night, everybody.
Don't hang me up, Christina. Don't hang me up. Are you there?
We're still live, so I will call you right back.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, bye.